Thanks very much, Niall. See Pat O'Shea there, and I want to commend Pat, and I genuinely mean this, Pat. I was in Newbridge there a couple of weeks ago and saw probably a game for the ages, Dr. Crooks and Errigal Kieran. I know you came out the wrong side of it, but the bravery and courage that you showed to go at Errigal Kieran, and we gave us an unbelievable spectacle, so well done to Pat. I'm wearing my club colours now. I'm looking out there and I see a lot of club colours, and it's very appropriate that I am wearing my club colours because it's Munster Club Forum, and we're all about our clubs and the GAA. And as just another note, Mary Immaculate College are orange and blue, and my club is orange and blue, and I don't think there are too many others in the country that wear those colours. Thanks to Ger and to Tim for the invite. We were down in Munster headquarters there about a month ago, and I know the commitment that Munster GAA have in terms of demographics, and they realise the importance of the subject. I became involved with demographics many moons ago with Tim Murphy in Croke Park, and having me here today to speak on demographics is a testament to the work that Tim has done and is doing, and others, to ensure that demographics is being discussed and written about openly. And I suppose there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that we're sitting here all this morning, and we belong to an incredible organisation. We belong to the best community and sporting organisation in the world, bar none. That's a big statement, but we should feel very, very privileged to be part of the GAA, and I know that you do appreciate that. I suppose the bad news is that we have the association is under threat from this subject called demographics, and I'll go into it in a wee bit more detail. But we all know the issues: urban and rural, and too many players and too few players, and lack of pitches and all that sort of thing. But I suppose the hard bit now is, what do we do about that, and where do we go? And I just want to take you back 5 years, and it's a very, very, very difficult period in our lives, very difficult period in the world. And COVID came along, and what did the GAA do? They stepped up and they were a beacon of light. And the response that the GAA members, people like you, carried out in your clubs, you helped the most vulnerable in society, and you delivered parcels, you did all those sort of things. I suppose my message and my challenge to you here today is, are we going to be able to do that for demographics? Because I think we need to. And right now, the small urban and rural clubs need our help, and you're very, very important people in that part of the jigsaw. And some of you might be in the comfort zone. And what I would say to you is, you need to step out of the comfort zone if you're in that, and help your neighbour and help that rivalry continue. Just a quick show of hands. How many are from urban clubs here? Quite a few, and the rest are from right. So again, vast majority are from the rural side of things. So I've got a limited time here, so I'm just going to run through it. So you see who I am, and there's my details, and we'll send the slide on, Tim, if we need to. The West suffered horribly in the storm, and there's John Prenty's dome, or Connacht's dome, put there by a lot of volunteers and your volunteers, and it just shows you that the course of life doesn't run smooth, but hopefully that'll be up and running. There's the committee members. I don't know if Catherine's mom's here. I think she's from Limerick. She was going to arrive, but we've got Liam Lynch here, who's the vice chair of Kerry GAA, who's very, very heavily invested in all of this. He's from Austin Stacks, and he's an unbelievable help on the committee. And there's the other committee members. Demographics, what is it? Very, very briefly, it's caused by the movement over a long period of time of people from the west to the east, from rural parts of Ireland to urban parts. And literally, you've seen, I'm not going to read off the slide there, you can see it there for yourselves. Millions of people have moved, some voluntarily, some forced by government policies in terms of planning. What I've said there on the slide is, and I'm not being critical of the GA at all, compliment it wherever I can, and I do it all the time. That gravitational pull towards the towns and the cities has been done with limited planning by the GA. They really couldn't see what was going to happen, to be fair. But significantly, there's been no real change in the number of clubs in either the urban or the rural spaces. You would imagine that with millions of people going to the towns and the cities, that there would be so many more clubs formed there, but they haven't been. Lots of rural clubs are under pressure with numbers, and some urban clubs have got so big it's becoming a problem for the association. And whereas I'm sure there's plenty of urban clubs there who are struggling for numbers, which is a bit of a paradox. Very quickly, the number of births in Ireland, just in pure demographics, pure statistics, in 2010 there was 100,000 people born in the island. 2023, that's dropped to less than 75. So there's going to be less and less and less of us. There's the club map. Looks very impressive. 7 million people, 1,610 clubs. There's Munster. And I was talking to a few people before we started, and Munster's percentage of the total population is just less than 20%. A huge number of clubs compared to the next slide I'm going to show you, which is the Eastern Seaboard. And 1 in every 4 members in the GA come from Munster. It's very, very impressive. There's the commuter belt around Dublin, 2.3 million. And if you go back to the Munster, 1.3 million people. 2.3 million people, 280 clubs. You've got 1.3 million people, 463 clubs. A huge number of clubs compared to what's around the commuter belt. This is the one that people get shocked at, the Eastern Seaboard. Over 3 million people, almost half of the entire population of the island, 299 clubs. 18% of the clubs are there, which represent almost half of the population. Quite a shocking graphic there. So what conclusions can we draw? Very, very simply, and again, big statement, but I'm prone to making some big statements and claims. And what we would say in the Demographics Committee is that the current GA structures aren't working right now for many clubs and counties. They've worked well in the past, but Ireland's a different place. Society has changed. Where we live has changed. Who we live with has changed. All sorts of societal issues are presenting challenges to the GA, and we need to change with it. Very, very important to say, because there's been a lot of hands up there when we talked about the urban clubs. Demographics, most people think, is a rural issue. And what I would say to you, it's not exclusively a rural issue, and arguably, and I see Paul Foley there, I was talking to him earlier on about Limerick City, and when I drove in here, I passed 3 rugby clubs and no GA club. But arguably the urban issues are greater. The other thing about life in Ireland now is young people thankfully have a lot of other options. You can do other things, you can play other sports, and the GA are competing for players with other sports and other pursuits. So I've got a question here, and again, very, very quickly. Do you perceive or believe that other sports, for example, rugby and soccer, are a threat to our association? Hands up very, very quickly if you think that they're a threat. So not many people think that we are a threat. In terms of, you've all your own pitches. Would you like to share your facilities with rugby and soccer? Would you be happy to do that? Hands up. I got two strange, just a handful of people have got, that's a very, very strange answer to those two questions, because in the first one, not many thought rugby and soccer was a threat. But when they ask it, would you like to share your facility? No, not a chance. That's the answer I expected, by the way. So, how do we solve the problem of demographics? Very, very difficult, and if it were easy, it would have been done by now, but it's challenging. So, as a committee, what we're hoping to do is put in a menu of options. So when you go into the restaurant, you can have a starter, a main course, dessert, Irish coffee, whatever it is you want yourself. So what we're looking at, and this is why we're presenting to you this morning, to try and get maybe some feedback. As I said to you earlier, the old way has probably served us well, and the J is very traditional. And tradition's great, but it holds you back. So right now we've got senior, intermediate, and junior, the tiers within our counties. And what we would be saying is, look, we think there should be additional tiers to cope with all of the different needs, different levels. And inter-county hurling, for example, it's got multiple tiers, works very well. And what we'd be saying is, look, why couldn't we do it in clubs? So again, for example, you might go to 6 different divisions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might only go to 1, 2, 3, 4 if your county only has 4. You might, if a bigger county like Cork or whatever it is, you might go to 12 divisions, 15 divisions. Question, what do people think about that? Do you think you would at least explore the prospect of having additional tiers at both underage and at adult level, so that teams can play against teams of similar ability? And I know you might say that, so we're doing that right now, but for example, I come from Tyrone, and our junior division this year, we've had to split it in 2, because the same teams at the bottom of junior have been at the bottom of junior for 50 years, and they've no prospect of ever winning anything, and they've no prospect of ever getting out of it. So again, very, very quickly, do people think that that's something that we should explore as a committee, to help smaller clubs in particular, and maybe the bigger clubs, play teams of similar ability and similar level? Hands up, any? Yeah, quite a consensus there. So, transfers and where we play has been problematic and contentious. So, this is only a question mark. It's not something we're saying we're definitely going to do, but we're running it past you. Can we get more people to play by having greater flexibility? And we're not saying that we're going to tear up the official guide and put it in the bin and change things totally. We're saying, look, could we have a bit more flexibility so players can play for different clubs? I'm not saying it would be a free-for-all like we do in soccer and everything else. Could we introduce permissions or sanctions to go from urban centres till maybe smaller clubs on the outside who need players to fill out a team, for example? we go to a lot of counties, and a lot of counties that are demographically challenged are saying, we don't want to play against the big teams anymore. We would far rather we would go cross-border. So, for example, we went to Leitrim, and Leitrim clubs are saying, look, we don't want to play Carrick and Shannon anymore because we play them 5 or 6 times a year and we get beat by 30 or 40 points. We rock up with 12, 13 players, and they rock up with 35, and it's a turkey shoot, and we don't want to do that more. So they're saying, look, we'll go to Fermanagh, we'll go to South Donegal, we'll go to Sligo, we'll go to Longford, we'll go to Cavan, anywhere, but we don't want to play in Leitrim anymore. It's as bad as that. Can we get smaller sided games to allow teams to field independently? And can we redefine the club definition according to the official guide to suit the needs of clubs that are under pressure? That's the sort of a menu that we're thinking of at the minute, and hopefully by implementing some or all of these, it'll mean that there'll be a wee bit less pressure on the Orbit club that's struggling for numbers, and the rural club that's feeling the same pressure. One of the things that, again, that we go to various different counties, and clubs are saying, look, when we have an issue, where do we go? And you could go to your county board, but there might not be somebody that has the expertise to answer all of the questions that you might have. So what we're talking about here is development a club and a county support unit, which would be central and provincially based, that would help with club creation and maintenance and retention, and all of these different things. And I'm not going to read through them because we're under pressure of time. But there's all sorts of things where you could make contact with this club support unit and get an answer to your question, grants and stuff like that there, and social enterprises and jobs and membership, all that sort of thing. We can't do this on our own, and I don't know if there are any politicians out there. Nobody wants to admit any politicians. The election's over, but we can't do this on our own. The GAA can only do so much, this is what we need the government to do. Rural and urban planning. We all know about the rural planning. The last time we were in Munster, Ger and Tim, we heard some examples of some very, very prominent people who are looking, planning permission to build houses in the city. No, and maybe having to go across the river. So all sorts of initiatives that the government have to take on, and hopefully, I know the new Uachtaráin has introduced a lobbying group, and hopefully all of these things he will be able to tackle. Now, I'm a great believer in looking in the mirror, and when I look in the mirror, all I see is a old baldy fellow with no hair and very few teeth. By the way, I got the championship haircut when I met Peter and Connor online yesterday. I had a pile of hair, so we've got the championship haircut for this outing. So what I'm saying is, we have to look at ourselves. We have to look at ourselves, and we have to be prepared to shoulder at least some of the responsibility for what's happening out there. And I'm saying to you, as you're all coaches, and you're here to hear from Liam Moffat and Brian and Keith Ricken about all sorts of things that are happening in your clubs. But what I'm saying to you is, as coaches, can you make a difference in the short term? Can you help the demographics issue, and hopefully retain more players? And everywhere I go, and Brian's there, and Brian coaches UCC, and I'm involved in Jordanstown, and we coach at a high level with some very, very high profile players. And you're used to talking about high performance and stuff like that there. But you're from a lot of clubs, some small, some medium, some big clubs, I'm sure. But all I hear is about high performance environment. S&C and nutrition and stats and stuff like that there, right? And we have clubs in the north who are saying whenever they're ordering a under 14 or under 16 set of jerseys, can you get the ones with a wee hole on them there? You know, right? Do we know what that's about? Do we? To drop the wee GPS thing in? That's nuts. Absolute nuts. So you as clubs, and maybe you're a part of it, maybe you're not, we're trying to jump on board the inter-county train. We're trying to ape what's happening at county level, and we're trying to bring it down to the club level, right? With the result that it's nearly win at all costs. We're doing anything and everything. We're in minor teams and clubs. We're having defensive coaches and we're having goalkeeping coaches and we're bringing psychologists in and what I'm saying is we're creating this pressure cook environment. And there is drop-off, I grant you that, and there always has been drop-off. But maybe we're adding to the drop-off by adding too many, asking for too much commitment, making demands that are too great, and young boys and girls who have other things to do say, yeah, not for me. So what it says at the very bottom there is, create a fun environment. You can still be ambitious, you can still try hard, you can give it your all, but have a fun element to it. And there's a lot of research out there at the minute, and there's a big comparison between LGFA and hurling and football. The girls report that they play football to make social connections, interactions, relationships and friendships. And when you ask the boys why they play, they're out to win. Nothing else. So have a think about that. Take home message, and Niall maybe give me a wee shout. I'm not bad. We're nearly on thing. The take home message is very simple. I think we all realise that major changes are going to be needed if your clubs, I see you sitting there and along the front there with your club colours on, it's great to see. If your clubs are going to survive into the future, and if you're going to help the association survive another 140 years, and by the way, the GA has never been strongest. 140 years old, it's so strong at the minute. But I want to leave you with this thought. Is it because the inter-county game is so strong? Is that what it is? When you go and watch television tonight and you see all these teams running out and thousands and thousands of people going to all the games, and Munster hurling championship is the envy of everybody. Is it strong because our inter-county players are out there and making it such a great spectacle? And if we look at our clubs, maybe the picture just isn't as bright. And what I'm saying to you is, you as coaches and administrators in your club can positively influence the future, can help affect the change that's needed. Do we want 1,610 clubs to be here at the 150th anniversary? Absolutely. Do we want a few more? That'd be great. And the GA stop line is touch doing a leg gun. We all belong, and there's a place for all of us. And what I'm saying here to you this morning, and please take it on board, will there be a place for all of us? And will we all belong?